All right, if you're gearing up for your board exams, you know that nailing the major formula categories is, well, it's everything. So today we're going to break down one of the most important and, honestly, sometimes confusing ones, harmonizing formulas. You know, in traditional Chinese medicine, some problems aren't just on the surface, like a cold, and they're not super deep inside, like some chronic organ thing. They're stuck, right in the middle, kind of in this weird limbo. So what do? How do you treat a problem that's neither here nor there? Well, you harmonize. And that idea, which was so perfectly put by the physician Cheng Wuji almost 1,000 years ago, is really the whole game. It's this brilliant strategy that was literally designed for these tricky in-between patterns. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture. What does harmonizing even mean? Then we'll zoom in on two absolute must-know formulas, XIAO YAO SAN and XIA XIE XIN TANG. After that, we are going to tackle a classic exam question, a real head-scratcher, and I'll show you the secret to telling them apart. And then we'll wrap it all up with a super fast review to make sure it all sticks. So first things first, let's get on the same page and really nail down what this whole harmonizing method is all about. Think about it like this. If your body had an internal dispute, the harmonizing method doesn't just send in an army. It acts more like a skilled mediator. It uses these really moderate, gentle strategies to kind of dredge things out and resolve the conflict. It's perfect for when the body is sending all these mixed signals, a little interior, a little exterior, some excess, some deficiency, cold and heat at the same time. It's complicated. Okay, so let's see this in action with probably one of the most famous formulas out there, XIAO YAO SAN, or rambling powder. And to make this super easy to remember, just think of it as a story about an overworked manager and a really tired factory. So the story always starts with a liver. In Chinese medicine, the liver is like the general manager of your body's qi. It's supposed to keep everything flowing smoothly. But when we bottle up our emotions, stress, frustration, you name it, that liver qi gets stuck. It becomes constrained. And our manager, they're totally stressed out, tense, and they just can't do their job right. So what happens when the manager is freaking out? Well, they might start lashing out at the employees, right? And in the body, that's exactly what happens. The constrained liver starts to over-control or bully the spleen. The spleen is our factory, transforming all our food into energy. When it gets bullied, it gets weak, and production just grinds to a halt. And that's when you get fatigue and a poor appetite. And this is where XIAO YAO SAN comes in as this masterpiece of multitasking. Seriously, it doesn't just go in and tell the manager, the liver, to chill out. It also goes down to the factory floor and supports the workers by strengthening the spleen. And it brings in more supplies by nourishing the blood. It takes care of the whole pattern, from that liver qi stagnation stuff like hypochondriac pain, all the way to the spleen deficiency stuff like fatigue. It's brilliant. All right, let's switch gears. We're going to move away from that liver-spleen drama and focus on a different kind of conflict, one that's happening right in the gut, the stomach and intestines. For this one, I want you to picture total chaos in a kitchen. Okay, so XIA XIE XIN TANG is for a very specific kind of digestive mess. It's for what we call a clump, where you've got heat stuck up top in the stomach, causing things like heartburn and nausea. But at the exact same time, you have cold lurking down below, in the intestines, causing diarrhea and all that gurgling. It's like a pot on the stove that's somehow boiling over on top while the bottom is still frozen solid. Just chaos. So the job of this formula is pretty clear. It needs to go into that chaotic kitchen and restore order. It has to clear the heat from above, warm up the cold from below, and just get rid of that internal traffic jam. The goal is simple, really. Get the whole digestive system to work together in harmony again. All right, pay attention here, because this is a classic board exam setup. You're going to get a question that pits XIA XIE XIN TANG against another huge harmonizing formula, XIAO CHAI HU TANG. They're both in the same family, but they treat completely different kinds of in-between problems. Let's break this down so you never get it wrong. So first, a quick hello to our old friend XIAO CHAI HU TANG. This is your go-to textbook formula for a lesser yang disorder. That's when a pathogen gets trapped. It's not fully out, not fully in, it's stuck in that pivot point. And the number one sign you were looking for? Alternating fever and chills. That's the dead giveaway. It's the body just fighting this thing at the halfway mark. Okay, this slide makes it so clear. Just think of it like this. XIAO CHAI HU TANG, or XCHT, is for a horizontal problem. The pathogen is stuck between the outside and the inside, like a stuck door hinge.
But Banxia XIE XIN TANG, BXXXT, is for a vertical problem. It's a hot/cold split that's happening within the interior between the upper and lower GI tract. See? Different location, different problem, and a totally different formula.
So, to really, really lock this in for your exam, let's pop the hood and look at the herbs themselves. The whole reason these two formulas work so differently comes down to just a couple of key ingredient swaps. And honestly, this is the secret to never ever mixing them up again. And this just spells it all out beautifully. Look closely. They actually share a core group of 5 herbs that are there to harmonize the middle. But XCHT is led by Chai Hu. That's the classic herb preventing pathogens from that half exterior, half interior level. BXHT takes Chai Hu out and swaps in 2 herbs, Huanglian, which is super bitter and cold to drain heat from the stomach, and Ganjiang, which is spicy and hot to warm up the cold in the intestines. See? The herbs literally tell you the whole story.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground, so let's boil everything we've talked about down into the most critical, high-yield facts you need for your exam.
If you only have a few seconds during the test to remember this stuff, just remember these 3 things. 1. XIAO YAO SAN is for your stressed-out patient who is also exhausted. 2. Banxia XIE XIN TANG is for that digestive chaos, hot on top, cold on the bottom. And 3. The big swap. XCHT has Chai Hu for that exterior-interior pivot. BXXT uses Huanglian and Ganjiang for the internal hot-cold split. That right there is the key to telling these powerful formulas apart when you're under pressure. Because at the end of the day, understanding these foundational formulas isn't really just about passing a test, is it? It's about learning to see these complex patterns in real people and knowing that you've got the tools to help bring their bodies back into harmony. It's about becoming a more precise, more confident, and just a more effective practitioner. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.